It's the AFTERBUZZ TV NXT After Show. We're your one-stop shop for your one-match situations. Tonight we got Finn versus Shin, as well as a look at the Cruiserweight Classic. Stay with us.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome everybody to the NXT After Show right here on AFTERBUZZ TV. We are here to cover the one and only match that was featured tonight on WWE Network. I am one of your hosts, the internet's Mark Donica. You can find me on Twitter at Mark Donica. Use the hashtag NXTeam. That's how we hear from you. Joined tonight, Bill Hanstock is currently on assignment at the ESPYs, joined by the United Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Friendship Express, starting with Hobo.
Still, Tag Team Champions. Friendship reigns supreme, and I'm here with my friend Jervis Cottonbelly. Like
yes.
my bestest friend.
Oh, yes, I'm his best friend in the whole wide world, and
Yeah.
that's why we're the Friendship Express. I'm Gentleman Jervis Cottonbelly, and it's a pleasure to be here again. I love you all.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Jervis. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Oh, thank you.
So tonight's show was a special one. We had one match only. It was just Finn versus Shin, but we had a little bit of a preview of the rest of our action for next week. Samoa Joe started out in gear, came out. I thought he was ready to fight. He's the champ. I haven't seen him fight in a while.
It's nice to be the champ. When you're the champ, the challengers come to you, but they have to sort themselves out before you can actually fight them. So you get to sit back a little bit.
Now, don't let your vanity get the best of you.
I'm a little vain.
Don't be so vain, I say. We have to remain humble and prepare for our next challenge, but...
Whoever it may be. So does Samoa Joe need to prepare.
Well, Samoa Joe, so far, I think he looked quite prepared this evening.
So actually, speaking to your championship history as the Hollywood Heritage Champion, what was it like having to take on all challengers, or did you let them come to you?
I let them come to me more or less, but then occasionally, you have to accept challenges that push themselves to the forefront. Not necessarily for the championship glory of it, but simply guys that assert themselves so far that you find yourself in a situation where it's put up or shut up, and the deals go on sort of over your head. They go to management in the back and say, I want this match, and then they assert themselves in front of the camera audience, and then, well, it happens, and you don't have much of a choice about it. You've got to be ready.
And ready Samoa Joe was. He came out to set the record straight. Everybody thought that Finn versus Shin would mean something, but it doesn't mean anything to Joe because he's the one who makes the calls in NXT. He talks about slaying the demon at TakeOver. He talks about bringing strong style to the States. So if Shin's the king, he better bow down to the Emperor. Nothing goes on without his say-so, and yet... we still have Rhino, the recently returning Rhino, back out, and he's talking about going straight through Joe to get to the top. Jervis, I wanted to ask you, how much gumption does it take to go up against a strong champion like a Samoa Joe?
Oh, well, I say, Samoa Joe, he makes me faint. And I'd say that's about on the scale of frightening competitors. I mean, he's pretty high up there. So I don't know if I'd have the mettle to go against someone like Samoa Joe. But when I look to a competitor such as Rhino, well, I think that's a different story because Rhino is full of roar and razzmatazz.
I mean, well, he takes on the moniker of one of the most vicious beasts in the animal kingdom, so he comes on with an air of destructiveness and strength. So I see no issue with him doing whatever it takes to just literally gore through the competition.
Have you ever been chased by a rhino?
I have not, no.
Oh, see, a few decades ago, I was on safari in Africa, northern Africa, and I was chased by a rhino, and there was a buzzard there too, and well, I suppose it was a giraffe, but the rhino was the leader of the pack, and all he was trying to do was to gore our small Humvee. And he wanted to flip it over with his gore and wreak havoc, and I think that's all he wanted. I don't think he wanted the food that we had or to eat us or anything. I think he was just looking for destruction and to keep us out of his zone, so to speak.
I don't know if this man-beast rhino is necessarily too much like your actual beast rhino. This beast, he wants gold. He wants to actually, all of his deeds and the things that he actually does flip over are meant to just sort of channel into that ability to get the championship. He wants to ascend the ranks once again. He sort of comes and goes, but when he comes hard. And he knocks over all of the competition. Everybody lays his path, but in the same respect, so does the Samoa Joe. Which one of these men is necessarily going to prevail when they're almost mirror images of one another?
It's sort of the unstoppable force versus the other unstoppable force.
Right.
Not even the immovable object. Like,
No.
they're both, it's just going to be like two goats just ramming each other. Or rams would probably be a better
Or rhinos.
use. Or rhinos.
Or rhinos.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He's a Samoan rhino.
Yeah.
If Samoa Joe were an animal, what type of animal do you think he'd be?
Gotta be something large. Like a Snorlax.
That's not a real animal, though.
Ooh.
That's if we're going mystical.
I think he'd be an orca whale.
Orca, the killer whale.
Yeah.
Yeah. They run in packs, though. He's like a rogue orca.
The lone whale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lone wolf whale. The lone whale.
Killer wolf.
The lone whale.
Wolf. The killer wolf. The lone wolf.
Wolf.
There we go.
Or a whale.
Do you think that winning the NXT championship would help his political goals?
Well, that's what I was actually wondering is if he were to become NXT champion, would he be able to govern the state of Michigan as he so wishes? Now, I don't know, but I do know this. If he were the champion of NXT, he'd probably be a shoo-in to be governor.
Yeah, it helps.
I think so.
You know, if you show that you're assertive in a certain actual arena, it can only help in the political arena, as far as I can tell. It only makes sense.
He could turn it into an actual arena, and people have to fight
Yeah.
to get their anything that they want to instill into the law passed.
I'll tell you, I'd love to see the governorship or what is he running for?
I think it's right, state assembly.
Assemblyship under 24/7 rules.
Yeah.
If you beat him, you can be the state assemblyman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could work.
Oh, that sounds like a frightening idea. Then no one would get involved in local politics, which, by the way, are very important if you have the right to vote.
Right, or everybody would get involved. Imagine the common man or Samoa Joe now running the state assembly for Michigan.
So you're saying that the state assembly would be decided in a battle of mites instead of
Right. What if Rhino put up his right to be a state assemblyman and Joe put the title on the line, so it was like title, like on a desk, versus
Title
a
versus
physical title belt. Yeah.
I'd be actually really interested if it came to that.
That would be pretty good.
Yeah, it's like if Jesse the Body came back at some point. Yeah. I like that. All right. So they have a little bit of a stare down, but Joe leaves. He wants to do it on his time. He's the champ. It's certainly not cowardly in any way. He's just taking advantage of being the champion.
I'm kind of with him on that.
I always run away from fights. So yes, I'm with him too.
Yeah.
Don't
But
blame you.
I'm lazy and he's afraid. And we're both with Joe, who's probably a little of both.
A little bit.
Lazy and afraid.
Wait, with Joe? No.
Sure. I'm just
calling him
calling
out.
it like I see it.
If Samoa Joe comes knocking, don't expect me to answer our door. You're
Well,
going to-
if you do, you will be the doormats.
No, I'm going to be hiding in the attic.
All right, go for it. But clean it while you're there. Do something constructive.
You know, I should actually, now that you mention it. You know, we share a house together.
Yes, I've heard. I was actually going to expound upon that. How did you come to start living together?
Well, you know, I come from old money, see, and I've never asked my parents for much, because I always wanted to make it on my own. But when Hobo and I started teaming together, I thought we ought to open our own dojo here in Southern California, and it starts with a house. So I purchased a house, and Mr. Hobo has never had a home before, and now we share a house, and
Yeah.
well, we share a lot of zany, wacky hijinks as well.
They seem normal to me. I don't know if they're hijinks. It's just normal life.
You're not supposed to eat the rubber on the inside of the refrigerator. That's what seals it shut.
Yeah, but how am I supposed to know that?
I suppose I have to leave more
It's
notes.
chewy. It's either that or your shoes. Which do you want?
No, well, please don't eat my shoes.
The actual
No
food
promises.
in the refrigerator.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but I can understand you're so hungry by the time you get to the refrigerator. That's the first thing you see.
Right.
So you take
I
it's like
an
jerky.
appetizer.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, I can see that.
It's not that far out of the realm of common sense.
Really quickly, the American Roroni in chat has a little bit of a joke.
I love jokes.
Who is Rhino's favorite politician?
Who?
Al Gore. Gore.
Oh, I love it. I want some more.
It's a funny one. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And it's clean, so Jervis likes it.
Oh, I'm tickled.
You can tell your mother that joke.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
can.
If she follows wrestling. So after this, we find out that the main event of the night and the only event of the night is Finn versus Shin. So we get a series of promos. We get a series. We get a look at the Cruiserweight Classic, which is airing presently if you're watching this live, but more on that later in the show. We get the Goldberg 2K17 promo. And then we get a rundown for next week. We get a rematch, Bayley versus Nia Jax. There's no stipulation, nothing indicating number one contendership or anything. American Alpha finally taking on the Authors of Pain, and it is confirmed Joe versus Rhino for next week. 3 huge matches to follow up the huge match that was the main event tonight. What do you gents think of that card for next week?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The Authors of Pain are the large chaps, right? And are they an extension of the Shield?
You mean you would think that? There's only 2 of them, so it's sort of like
they might be the Indian arm of the Shield.
That's what I'm
Yeah, that
wondering.
could work.
Mercenaries from the East Indies. Yeah.
Well, they certainly have that look, and I saw them last night on Instagram for the first time.
Yeah.
And well, I almost fainted.
Surprised you could fit them both in one picture. They're that big.
They're large dudes.
Yeah.
Pretty big dudes. And Paul Ellering just trying to poke his head up like a little bit.
Just
but-
looks like somebody got their thumb in the picture. Top of Ellering's head.
You know, I look a lot like Paul Ellering, so
You
you're,
do.
You're
Yeah.
wounding me as you wound him.
You need a little something on the chin, that's all. Ellering's got like the whole goatee.
I like my chin just the way it is.
Also, he needs to wear a monocle. Of course.
Yeah,
Of
that's-
course he needs to wear a
brings
monocle.
it closer together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got monocles recently, didn't you, Jerv?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, and I have to talk about those later.
Yeah, I want to take a look at them.
So of those 3 matches, which are you most excited for?
It's got to be seeing the debuting Authors of Pain. Bailey and Nia, sure, that again, but like you said, what's it for? What's this all supposed to shake down for? I just don't know. And I'd like to know it's actually going someplace.
That might just be contributing to the downfall of American Alpha on NXT because
Right.
they're essentially out of the title picture now. They have a definitive second loss against the Revival.
But this is their opportunity to maybe get a second wind. Like
Third wind, I would say.
Well, all right, third wind, but they could still manage to put the Authors of Pain in their place. The Authors of Pain are working real hard to sort of upset the order of things, come in, topple some stuff over, completely unestablished. We don't know who these guys are at all. And here they come, they're knocking things over, they're taking out the former tag team champions now, and I think the former tag team champions are looking to assert themselves. American Alpha needs another win. The question is, are they going to be able to get it? I don't know.
I'm not sure. How about you, Jerv?
Ooh, I don't know if they're going to be able to earn that win, but I'm certainly going to be pulling for them. But as far as next week goes, I think I'm most excited to see Bayley, because she's my favorite.
Well,
Bailey's the best.
I'm a
She-
bit biased, so...
No, I mean, Bailey is probably my favorite person in NXT right now.
Yeah.
She's just so much fun and a great influence and just an overwhelming beacon of positivity, which we need. And which I think y'all...
we try to be.
Yeah, no.
Try to emulate
No.
that a little bit.
Don't try, do. And I think you do.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And not to be...
I'm blushing.
Oh, that's fine. You look wonderful. I think, and not just to sort of just spread it widely, but Joe versus Rhino intrigues me because I think he could either be just 2 dudes hitting each other like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens do on a nightly basis, or it could be. We could start to see a different version of Joe because we've seen the ground and pound heavy striking Joe, but we have Rhino who literally throws his body at people. So I think we'll be able to see Joe adapt to a form that maybe NXT fans haven't had a chance to see yet.
Joe, you have to keep in mind at all times that Joe is very light on his feet. Despite his size, he's able to throw a lot of very devastating kicks and use his size sort of as like a balloon. He's like he's filled with hot air. He just floats around and kicks you in the head.
He's like a pufferfish.
Yeah.
You know, when he wants to, he can get real big and scary and...
Maybe that's his secret identity.
But sometimes he's nimble and quick and fast. And I think he's quite deceiving, that Samoa Joe. And I don't think I would ever be brave enough to stand toe-to-toe with him.
And pufferfish, that's a really good analogy.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
he's a skinny guy when he's in his off time.
But I mean, it's the implication that he's speedier and can move around easier, not necessarily that he's physically smaller.
But he can get bigger. Like, that's...
Puff himself up like
Right.
he's trying to scare an animal?
Absolutely.
All right.
That's his trick.
Sure.
All of this is a big act to make him seem bigger than he is. Like he's fighting a grizzly
See, I
bear, you
just do
know?
that too.
Yeah. Oh no, don't deflate yourself.
Oh, I'm deflated. Pop me back up now. Oh, look
There we go. There we go.
Only here on the NXT After Show on AfterBuzz TV. And
He's a little
lastly,
teapot.
of the last little bits, we have another package about Finn versus Shin, and I first of all surprised they didn't call it Finn versus Shin. Beyond, because it's catchy and it's bouncy and I like it.
Right.
But we got two long packages about this fight, and everybody's calling it a dream match. Everybody's saying well, they didn't say once in a lifetime. They learned their lesson with that.
They said this is the first in a lifetime.
The first in NXT.
Yeah.
They said they made sure to say first in NXT, just to get it like there. It's just here in this microcosm. So we got an extended match, very long match, 26 minutes. It was pretty good.
Like that.
They got a good amount of time.
Most of it was entrances.
What did y'all think of Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor?
I liked it. It was a very difficult contest. You could see as these guys were progressing in their match that it sort of took a toll on them, some more than others, but by the very end of this, you could see both of them just drenched in sweat from head to toe, and I don't think that's just the Florida humidity. I think those guys were really working their butts off out there.
Yes, and I was actually quite surprised that Finn Balor, he sort of took a nasty approach to Shinsuke's legs.
Yes, he was aiming for the knee the majority of the match.
Yes, and then that, in my opinion, though it's very calculating and smart and shows a lot of ring veteranism, I thought it was a bit underhanded of Finn. I was surprised.
I don't know if it's underhanded. I mean, it's a veterinary tactic. You've got to limit the offense of your opponent.
Certainly, but if you're in a sword fight with someone and they lose their sword, is it really honorable if you defeat them, or would you like them to be equally matched?
I'd say if they lose their sword, they've got to give up. Like, you've got to forfeit. You can, keep fighting people if you want. Try and take it hand to hand if you've lost your main weapon. You're never short of weapons if you're a person. Unless you're like the Black Knight and all of your arms and legs have been cut off. You are never without a weapon.
Oh, I'm going to
Oh no, even then, the Black Knight still had the moxie to continue.
Absolutely.
He called it a draw.
Always challenged.
Call it a
Call it a draw there, Finn. Nothing but a hand.
Well, the thing about Finn is he was trying to take the advantage. For a tall opponent, it is very good to get them off their legs. For a strike-based opponent, it's very important to take away their strongest strike. And also, despite all of the work that Finn was doing on his knee, Shinsuke seemed to have conditioned it so much that it wasn't really affecting him.
I was actually quite surprised at that.
As was I.
And I wonder if the referee checked Shinsuke's legs properly, because it seemed as if he had a sheet of titanium alloy covering his knee, because he seemed to just be magically bouncing around on it. It was astonishing. Really.
Getting right back up, running across the room with the knee. You could say it's adrenaline, but that only takes you so far. He got thrown out of the ring. And
I'd say he's a Gundam.
yeah?
There's a tiny alien in
He's a
there.
mobile suit?
He is a mobile suit.
What's a Gundam?
It's a machine that's...
It's a giant mech.
Right.
Yeah.
Normally it's supposed to be very big.
Like Voltron?
But what if, kind of like Voltron, but what if there's a little alien in there who's just sitting right here, and Nakamura's body is actually like a Japanese piece of machinery. Yeah, I think he's an alien robot shipped from Japan.
That sounds about right.
That's what I think.
Say,
That's the only way that makes any
We're
sense.
all worked up now.
Spent a lot of time in the sun.
I believe in a lot of these things,
I
you know.
think you've had too much coffee.
Lizard men and giant tiny robots.
And really quick, AJ0314, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up. I'm formally filing a lawsuit against Corey Graves in the WWE because during the match, Graves shouted out "that was gross," which tells us he watches this show.
And when
Hello, Mr. Graves.
Hi, Corey. Wonderful to see you.
I like your tattoos and your edgy
you
haircut.
like his tattoos,
I said his tattoos and his edgy haircut.
Well, I mean, you
They go together.
You don't have any hair, but you don't have any tattoos.
Well, you know, I don't get tattoos because I'm too scared of needles. But if
Right.
I could, face the music, I would get as many as Mr. Graves has.
Oh my gosh.
Even all the way up
So
on your
much
neck?
tattoos.
All the way up here and all the way down here.
You should get like a teardrop.
Why? What does that mean?
It means you killed a guy.
Oh, I'm gonna
Yes. No. Oh, we got him.
See that? I would like to
Come
say that's how I like how much your friendship has blossomed in this tag team because earlier on you probably would have messed with him and said you're just sad for all of the sadness in the world.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it just proves that you're dedicated to improving sadness.
No,
But no, you told him the truth.
I'm trying to get him to be able to
He's
intimidate other people
Acknowledge
in the
his
ring.
crimes?
No, just intimidate other people.
Okay.
He's been helping me earn street cred.
Yep. Street cred.
Yes.
You gotta look like you can do something bad.
You're also literally from the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
The street.
A street fighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Street fighting man.
That's you.
Am I a street fighter?
No.
No, I'm more of an aristocrat fighter.
Yes.
There you go.
It's an abbey fighter, if you will.
Right, you got the fisticuffs, the formal training, you know, that very, very old.
bully.
There you go.
Very formal.
Yeah.
So it was a lot slower of a match than expected until maybe the last 7 to 5 minutes, where it started to speed up. Everybody started to hit stuff that they're known for. What is it? The 1906 that he calls it now.
Yes, this,
The under.
this sort of lifting.
I'm calling it
Yeah.
the 1776 because this is America.
All right.
Yeah.
That was like the one that Gold Dust used to
The
do.
lifting reverse DDT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what it is.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We saw a couple of stomps, a lot of knees, a lot of knees.
Knees.
And no matter, there were some points where Finn was kicking Shin in the knee and not in the shin, and he was being directly affected. But by the time it came for the Kinshasa, he was just feeling every bit of energy that crowd was feeding him.
He was.
Ooh, yes.
He looked so strong on those legs, despite all the work. The heel hook especially.
Oh, the heel hook made it even worse.
That'll mess up your day, and
Well,
probably several days up.
I'll say this. I think, and I hope I'm not insulting you, Mr. Balor, but I think Finn Balor needs to go and work on his strategy as far as how to pick apart one's leg. Because
Sure.
I think that if Shinsuke were able to hit him with such fervor at the end, that, well, I think he's going to have to revisit his strategy the next time they meet.
It
agree.
obviously wasn't working.
No, all of his attacks, all of his submissions were not working, but he kept going back, he kept trying. And if he had taken the time to, in the middle of the match, change his focus, change his direction, maybe start going after arms, maybe more of a quad as opposed to...
You seem to try to go after the head at some point, always going back to the leg.
I think
The hip flexor.
the
Yeah.
ankle. I'd say
Ankle.
like the ankle have a more direct adverse effect on pressure
Well,
when
you
you're
know,
trying to stand.
I actually use the ankle lock sometimes when things get too out of hand, and I've actually used it to win a couple of matches. And when you can compromise the ankle, then there's no. They can't put weight on the knee, the ankle, the shin, anywhere.
Exactly.
But if you compromise the knee, then sometimes the ankle can do a bit of the heavy lifting. So I thought if he'd have been targeting perhaps some reverse toe and ankle locks, or perhaps a regular ankle lock. I would have liked to see that. Yeah, spinning toe hold. It's especially a good one.
Yeah. It could have created a different outcome, because the Kinshasa was effective. It took a couple of times to set in, but it was effective.
He did the diving one off the top or off the second rope, and then a full-on Kinshasa. 1916. Thank you for the correction, chat. Is the lifting reverse DDT? Where does Finn Balor go from here?
Ooh, I think he goes right to the draft.
Really?
I think so.
We're going to be talking about the draft at the end of the show, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's. I'll bet it's these two guys' last time in NXT. I think both of them are getting called up. Both.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there goes my question of what do you think happens to Shinsuke?
They're both going.
So you don't think his quest for the NXT Championship will continue?
No.
No?
I think it's over, because if somebody comes to him and goes, "We want you to go to the main roster," how can you say no to that?
I agree with that. Do you? I think this could, catch the eye of both of the commissioners. The newly announced commissioners.
I'm sure they were backstage. They were watching.
Probably.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. And I think that if you are one of the commissioners, that perhaps putting these two on the same show would yield you quite entertaining results.
Because I gotta say, if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn end up on the same show after this draft, you're gonna need somebody to combat that fire of a rivalry, and these two might be the people to do it.
But I ask you this. Is there that much fire in their rivalry? Because they seem to have the utmost respect for each other as they bowed at the end, whereas Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, there seems to be no love lost there.
No, they hate each other. You're right. I mean, it's Nakamura and Balor. They respect each other. They've known each other for more than 10 years, and there was no love loss in this matchup. They really respect each other, but they brought it because they respect each other. It wasn't like they were taking foul shots or taking advantage of the other person. They were simply trying to test the limitations of the other, as one does with a fellow competitor whom they respect.
I think if there was a rivalry, it would be Finn versus Joe. Would be a rivalry to rival this, but it's still not as fervent as the one between Sami and Kevin.
Yeah.
This was a lot of people are going to call this a classic. I think it was a very good match.
Not quite a classic.
Not quite a classic. I think something that affected at least our mindset here in the studio was the fact that, and forgive me if I'm speaking for you out of turn, but they kept. We had 3 weeks of prep, 3 weeks of build. Everybody was calling this a dream match. They kept pounding it into our heads how special this event was going to be. They revolved the entire show around it. We got 2 promos about it the same show. So expectations are really high, especially after the magic that Nakamura's matches have been so far, especially with his debut versus Sami Zayn. I don't know if he'll be able to get up to that level again soon, because I think that's one of the closest things to a perfect match, and I may be skewed because I was in that crowd, but there's a lot that I think this match could have been if they didn't tell us what this match could have been.
I prefer
Take 2.
things to be undersold to me.
Yeah.
Like, you remember the night when they had that match that just ran the entire length of the show as a surprise? I think it was Zayn. And who else? It was
Zayn and Joe, I think.
Was it Zayn and Joe? And it lasted. It was the entire freaking show.
Yeah, and we're like, this is the whole show.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
because nobody told me it was going to be amazing.
No, it
was amazing.
By the time we were like 20 minutes in, it was like, this is going to be the whole show, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's a very interesting point. Sometimes your expectations can alter your reality. So, for me, only watching last week's NXT episode, I hadn't been privy to as much build-up, so I was able to see it with somewhat fresh eyes.
Good.
And I thought that the momentum and the excitement was really there. And you know how I could really tell is that the NXT audience, or the WWE universe, down in Full Sail was quite vocal before they even, they were exchanging holds and headlocks, and they weren't really even doing much, and they were getting raucous chants.
Before they even touched, there was a "This is awesome" chant.
Yeah, without
Like,
even
why
getting...
don't you take it
And,
easy?
I think that what that represents is that WWE and NXT in specific are very good at spinning hype.
Yeah,
do that.
it's a machine that really has to have more hype than actual payoff.
How do we get in on that hype machine? Boom! Smash!
I don't know. You got more Twitter followers than me. I think you're doing a pretty good job.
I think we could also we know some folks out at NXT. Let's see if we can get Mojo Rawley on the phone. He knows a thing or two about hype.
My God.
Boom!
He's gonna own his own PR agency one of these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call it the
Hypeco.
Hypeco. That's it.
Yeah.
Just
I like that.
manufacturing hype.
Yeah.
That's it.
Crank that wheel.
Crank it.
Crank that soldier boy.
Crank it.
And
See, it's a thing.
that's good. Because even comparing it to Sammy and Shin, there was a lot of hype around that, but they never were in the same ring. They just kept showing the one promo, whereas opposed to this, they made it really personal. Like, we're friends. He knows my family. Like, it's like cool,
Took away a bit of the mystique, eh?
a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was nice when we got them. I think if they made
Unless they waited to give
Exactly.
that all at the end.
if they gave us those interviews tonight, if they started it out with the interview from Shin or the interview from Finn, did the in-ring Joe segment, and then do Finn, and then do one last package, and then do the match.
Right.
I think that'd be like, oh, cool. This is like its own special.
This is happening.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually indicative of a larger issue. I think that sometimes with so many screens in our hands and around us at all times, I think that what ends up happening is we get overloaded with content, and as a distributor or a content curator that WWE is, perhaps they're not sure how much to give us and how much to hold back. And I think that, again, because we're so demanding of content and we're always scrolling and looking at our feed,
24/7. Everything's 24/7.
yes, I think that it's important that that they keep releasing good content, and it just so happens that because we're also such diehard fans that we see the content most out of anyone.
Sure.
Right, and that's the problem, is releasing good content, because the more content you create, you can actually water it down even more than
yes.
that, and that's sort of the problem. That's why a lot of people complain about watching Raw on Monday nights. It's 3 hours, and they say it's thin. It's incredibly, incredibly thin, because it's simply trying to blow up a balloon to fit into something else,
As
and
previously
that balloon,
demonstrated.
it just gets bigger and bigger until it pops, as will Samoa Joe one day.
Another good joke really quick from the American Maroni. Mojo sleeps in a hyperbolic chamber.
Yes, he does.
Pretty good.
He trains in a hyperbolic time chamber.
I
Yeah.
love clean jokes.
That's where he was when he was missing for a week. He was in a hyperbolic time chamber training, and then came out a year older
Is that what that
with
was?
longer hair
And a year hyper as well.
and a year of hype just waiting to explode. And then he lost. But so that was
For America!
for America. That wasn't that week, but so that was the show that was NXT tonight. But we're gonna get into a little bit of news and gossip.
There it is.
TV News.
All right, so we're gonna leave our stuff that we're gonna be talking about the CWC until the end. First, something I want to bring up: Dusty Rhodes, the godfather of NXT, the daddy of NXT with all of its babies, is going to be inducted into the Hall of Heroes 2016 class during the NWA Legends Fan Fest coming up soon by Magnum TA. So if you're in Nashville, if I remember that correctly, find that event, go. Any event surrounding Dusty Rhodes is one that's going to be full of laughs, full of tears, and we love ourselves some good Dusty Rhodes. Screw it. Let's do that now. Forgive my language. A lot of people have been asking, and we've been talking about it. If there's going to be an official Cruiserweight Classic after show, unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, there is not going to be a CWC after show. But every week we're going to be breaking down in a little bit that we're going to be calling the Cruiserweight Classic Compendium, At the end.
Compendium!
At the end of the NXT show, it's going to be a segment that we're going to have. We're going to make the lights all purple. It's going to be adorable. Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of wearing my purple for the event. But yes, we're going to do a segment out of it. We're also working on doing maybe a quarterfinal review, semifinal review, final review, specials as opposed to an ongoing series because that's a little bit easier to schedule from a studio standpoint. So thank you everybody who is expressing interest in that. We really wanted to do it, but it's a wild time at the studio right now. So thank you.
It's just so hard.
Yes, and by not sticking to a strict schedule, that allows us to get Ty Matthews, so like folks from other shows, Scott Narver, Dale when he's in town.
Yeah.
You know, like it gives us the opportunity to pick and choose.
Actually, he was just down at the PC this week.
He was. If you don't follow The Walking Dale, who's a frequent contributor to here as well as the Wrestling Padres Slamcast, they're doing a new segment where he goes down to the Performance Center and interviews folks. I think he announced that he talked to Finn, Bailey. Johnny dropped the ball that he was going to talk to Alexa Bliss, which I am really excited to hear that interview because I'm sure those two could make magic.
Oh, yes.
So that's all going to be on the Wrestling Compadres Slamcast. I know he's also going to be at Comic-Con trying to get interviews, and I'm going to try to hang out with him as much as possible when not working. So if I make sure to follow him at The Walking Dale, and y'all follow me, I know you do. In case I do end up going out with him and interviewing some nice folks. All right. So as our first little bit from the Cruiserweight Classic Compendium, tonight's main event of the show is Kota Ibushi versus Sean Maluda. So Sean Maluda of the Samoan heritage, where most people are related to The Rock and Roman Reigns, versus Kota Ibushi, who some people are saying is a shoe-in. So there's also...
kind of feel bad for the other kid, but Kota Ibushi looks awful strong.
Yeah. Kota Ibushi is probably the one person that people go, oh, why doesn't he have a contract?
Yeah. I kind of feel bad for that other kid.
We also currently have Sayas versus Metallic.
Metallic.
Which is going to be a good match.
Heavy on that one.
Metallic makes me faint.
Does he?
Is it the design of his neck?
Oh, yeah, don't remind me.
I'm sorry.
All right, okay.
Yeah. We're gonna do a miniature breakdown at the end of NXT every week to talk about what happens on the Cruiserweight Classic. So yes, again, thank you for everybody
So
expressing
we'll be
interest.
covering this week's next week.
Yes, because the fact that we record this at the time of live airing.
So it'll be like a review before you can watch the new one.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yes. All right.
All right.
So from there, the last thing that we're going to do today, you can fade out the news music, that's fine. Next week is the draft, is the WWE draft to Raw and SmackDown, and there are major implications for NXT. So I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation about what NXT folks we want to see pop up in the draft.
Like, everybody? Is everybody an option?
Such as the folks getting tipsy in the club.
Yep. On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday.
What does that mean? What is this?
Supposedly, what I hear is everybody in the club getting tipsy.
What is tipsy?
Like a jazz club. Everybody's having a good time.
Everybody's smoking jazz cigarettes?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's an old pastime of mine, I suppose then I like to get tipsy as well, and I do it just like this.
Jazz brand cigarettes.
Yeah, razzmatazz.
A cigarette that you can play non-formal music to.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Fair play.
I like tipsy.
So let's go to main event caliber folks. Let's go to tag team division aside from American Alpha. Let's take American Alpha off the table. Who else in the tag team division from NXT would you like to see pop up?
Well, the Revival. But
they're the champs.
They have championship caliber stuff.
Take two?
Yep.
Okay.
They're good. I like them. They should probably go up.
You know
Despite having shiny accessories.
You know who I'd like to see back are my friends 3.0.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
They could come in after the draft. They gotta work their way up. They can't go straight to the main roster. Sure, they got a little charisma, but
once we clear a little bit of space in NXT,
Right.
3.0 comes back. Do you think TM61 could just jump straight to the main roster? Or do you think they need to spend some more time in NXT?
Oh, it's hard to say. I'd like to see him spend a little bit more time in NXT, just a little bit. before they go up, just to see more of them. Like I feel like I haven't gotten enough of them.
I think they're ready.
Yeah.
I think they have
I think
enough.
I'm just being selfish.
Well, I mean, we have a wonderful tag team here in studio, the Friendship Express.
Hi.
So having you guys talk about tag teams
Yes.
is probably a little bit difficult without including your names on the roster.
Thank
so
you.
by clearing out more of that tag team, more of the tag team area, and the Dusty Classic coming up,
That's true.
how likely are we to see y'all in the Dusty Classic?
I say never
Okay.
personally.
No, I'd say instead of never say never, I'd say it's more like say when.
Say,
Ah.
Or say yeah.
Yeah.
Say yeah.
Say
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you guys go hard?
I go hard.
All day, all
Go
day?
hard.
Yeah. Look at that mustache. You know he goes hard.
Yeah.
Hard things.
Yeah, like rocks. Rocks and bits of metal.
Steel.
Yeah. Yeah, like railroad ties.
Okay, we're getting off the rails now.
A little bit. Speaking of rails, very good, thank you. But yeah, no, I think y'all would do wonderful. And if you show up with gold, that helps your chances even more of gaining the respect of the WWE Universe.
Couldn't hurt, I guess,
Oh,
right?
heck no.
We'll try.
But I say we're going to be doing our best because we've got a tour coming up at the end of August.
Sure.
And we're going to be going back to the East Coast. So if a stop by Florida is required on that tour, then I suppose we would never turn that chance
I don't know
down.
if you stop by Florida, like you have to go to Florida. Have you ever seen it? It's like a dingus just hanging there. You gotta go to it. You can't just kind of go by it.
What's a dingus?
A dingus. It's
Is this something that you guys should talk about later in your
it's a cut of
your
meat.
bedroom?
It's a cut of meat
Okay,
that
Like a
you
big-
can get off a large bull.
So like a big meaty member hanging off of the United States.
Yes, very meaty.
Right on the tip.
Very meaty. But
Yep, and that's where Orlando is, right on the tip.
yeah, just the tip.
Just on the tip.
Yes.
Just the tip.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Should
I
probably
know,
get some
now I
cream
know
for that.
Florida.
Very good.
Yep.
You know it backwards and forwards. Who do you want to see? And now I'm going to keep excluding folks too. Aside from Bailey, who from the women's division do you want to see go up to the main roster?
Ooh, I want to see Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
I just think she's so wonderful, and even though she's little and nasty and angry and mean,
It's like the opposite of you.
yes,
She's
she
like
is,
an angry fairy.
She is like an angry fairy, and I've met quite a few angry fairies.
Right.
But I think Miss Bliss is ready, and I'd like to see her try something new, because perhaps the reason that she's so angry is because she's been around NXT so long, and she needs a change of scenery.
I suppose it's possible.
Yeah. We do have there seems to be an excess of nastiness though on the main roster. Like there's a lot of will she be able to make a splash in that pond?
I think she could easily fit her brand of nastiness right in, probably on Total Divas, which is the nastiest place for nastiness.
You know, I
Right,
remember
yeah.
she used to act like a princess, and I think if she went back to that perhaps she would have a better shot at making friends at the main roster.
But I
Friends
think
is
she would
good.
lose that veracity, and
ferocity.
Yes, that she's had Snarl that within the past little while, and I don't want to miss that because it's so much fun.
It's pretty good. Oh, I don't know.
Well,
I
not
wanna-
fun for her opponent.
No.
but fun for the audience.
Yes.
Yes.
Who
I
not?
want to see Nia. Like, I think the world could benefit from a female of Nia Jax's caliber up in the main roster where everyone really will see her.
You know, I'd like to see Nia compete with the men.
Yeah. No, yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely
I think she could
great.
hold her own, and I think she could be champion if she wanted, just like China.
Right.
Yeah.
To pull that Intercontinental belt, make it special.
And actually, to that point, one of the things Shane McMahon said on this past Monday Night's Raw is he wanted to break the glass ceiling when it came to SmackDown. And by having somebody like Nia Jax on to hold a singles title, I think would be something to get the attention right away.
I think Nia Jax is good at breaking lots of stuff.
Backs,
Backs,
legs.
ceilings, doors,
Oh,
windows.
to faint.
I wonder how she would do versus Shinsuke Nakamura's knee. But now
I fear for Naka's knee at that point.
Oh, of course.
She's sturdy.
yeah. Singles competitors. Singles competitors that you would want to see either in the main of, like, we haven't seen somebody from NXT start in the main event yet. We've seen them start in like the middle range in the IC United States Championship reign. The closest thing I would say is Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews.
Or Kevin Owens, perhaps.
Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens, I mean, but he started right there in the middle, mixing it up with the champ of champions, John Cena, but as the
United States champion. But I definitely agree with you in that regard. So if there would be one person that you would want to see up for maybe SmackDown's title if they end up splitting up the World Championships or the WWE Championship, even though that seems to be a Shield thing for a while, who would you want to see take on the World Championship, the SmackDown Championship?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd kind of want to see Ty Dillinger, just because he's so like the square peg in a round hole. No one would think to place him there, and I would like to see him simply for that reason. I think you could actually get an upset victory.
I
Just
agree.
because he's who he is.
I think I'd like to see Johnny Gargano.
Oh, yeah.
And even though he's in the CWC, I think he could have a good match with anyone on Earth.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Although I think I would like to see Ciampa because
I was going to say Ciampa.
He's got more of an edge aggressively. Like he's
but
a mean mother.
I think Johnny Gargano's a nice fellow.
Right, but I like him a little tougher. You know, Gargano, sure, he's got the moves and whatever, but he misses that edge, you know? You
it's
need
all
that
about-
killer instinct.
It's all about being nice, sweet, and everything neat.
Well, that's nice, but then you get those guys who want to take your head off, and what are you supposed to do? You gotta reciprocate.
Perhaps that's why they work so well as a cohesive unit, just like
Probably.
us.
Perhaps. I would say Austin Aries.
I
I think if there's anybody who can just go straight up, it's Austin Aries.
yes,
and I'm not
agreed.
just saying that because Johnny paid me, but it's his level of jerkdom, on the main roster is something.
I mean, he's probably more Jamaican than Kofi Kingston. He's such a jerk.
that was really good.
Is that good?
You know,
That's pretty good.
the jerk store called, and they've run out of Austin Aries.
Oh, dang!
it's good.
Burn!
Bang, bang!
Burn!
Shooting, brother! Bang! Pew, pew,
I
pew!
think him and Kevin Owens could make a really good like Reese's cup of you got your jerk and my also jerk.
Ooh.
That wasn't even an attempt at a joke. I was just, they're both jerks and they fit well together. So I think he could be an option for the other show to be like, who's this guy? Come on.
Like that, you could call them the Jerky Boys.
Yeah, you could. You
Jerky
could.
boys. Yeah.
So the last thing, thank you. The last
there
thing
it is.
that I wanted to refer to is since we're going to have this extension of brands, possible new championships, do you think that the door to NXT should become more of a revolving one to where we have champions going from NXT to Raw, to SmackDown? NXT champion, NXT Women's champion, NXT Tag Team champions.
It would be nice, but it's all, you have to look at it. It's really already a revolving door with guys like Bobby Roode coming in. And
I mean, from
tangling
up,
up.
as opposed to
I
out.
actually prefer it the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the talent from the main roster coming down. I'd rather see different talent coming in and sort of mixing it up with them and then leaving better and improving places. Like it's. The main roster's the main roster. Everything goes up, but I like the way it's circulated right now. I prefer it this way.
Like a James Storm.
Right, and
Yeah.
it's an alternate. Like it's not now. It doesn't bleed. This is NXT, and it's not the main roster, and I like it. That
It
way.
exists on its own.
Sure.
Yes.
They're trying to sell that anything can happen, and I'm wondering what one or two picks there will be to illustrate that anything can happen. Because there was the one year where Cena got drafted and then drafted back, and that was kind of a waste of time, but it was like, oh, anything can happen. So I figure if you get Samoa Joe, just boom, SmackDown, Samoa Joe,
Deonna Purrazzo.
anything is possible.
The curse is lifted.
The Gypsy Curse, Deonna Purrazzo. But yeah, let us know what you think about NXT as it relates to the draft. Excuse me. Next week, we're trying to work on doing a live special with representatives from every one of our after shows to cover the draft. It's going to be a wonderful time. Make sure you stay tuned to our
I
Twitter
won't be
accounts.
there.
No, we're all.
I'm busy.
Yeah. I mean, you're
I
champions.
got stuff to do.
You're champions. You got stuff to do.
Championship caliber stuff to do.
Yeah, and I'm planning a wedding, which is equally as important.
Whose is it?
Well,
It's mine.
Am I invited?
I don't know if the Hobo's invited.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on.
if we have extra
Well,
space.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to be master of ceremonies at that wedding, so perhaps if there's an extra table space.
And if both
Yeah.
of you...
I'll
may-
be under the table. You can throw me extra food.
Throw
Just put that plate on the floor, slide it my way.
You can throw the Hobo a bone on iTunes, where you can leave us a comment or a thumbs up or a rating, letting us know how we're doing as a show.
Yeah, just on iTunes.
Just on
I
iTunes,
don't
not-
want it on Twitter. You can keep your bone pics to yourself.
Not real bones. But until next week, gentlemen, Friendship Express, thank you for joining us. Where can the folks
You're
find you
welcome.
on Twitter, on social media in the meantime? Jervis.
You can find me at Gentleman Jervis, Jervis. And that's on Twitter, Instagram, and, well, everything else you'll know once you visit me there.
That's a good point. You can find me on Twitter at TrueHobo. ProWrestlingTees.com/hobo is a website where you can buy shirts. Go to BoxcarSuperstar.com. That's my website. I have a website because I am a Boxcar Superstar.
Yes.
Duh!
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, razzmatazz.
And you can
Razzmatazz.
follow me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica. You can follow all of us here at AfterBuzz TV. We have a new show that I'm going to be leading tomorrow. If you're a fan of animation, if you're a fan of comedy, we're doing a Camp After Show. It's a web show on Rooster Teeth. It's really funny. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. Look it up. And then also go to nxteam.spreadshirt.com. We are selling wonderful merchandise. It helps us do more wrestling events, and we've had people purchase stuff recently when we are eternally grateful.
And thank you.
And thank you again, Mark B. Donica, AfterBuzz TV, our sister network, The Popcorn Talk. We do a bunch of stuff for them as well. But until next week, enjoy the CWC, and we will see you back in Florida.
Bye-bye.
I love you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
This is so
Buzz you later.
Buzz you later, I mean.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.